Daniel chapter 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, into Jerusalem, and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim king of Judah into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, and he carried them into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God, and the vessels he brought into the treasure house of his God. And the king spoke unto Ashpenaz, his chief officer, that he should bring in certain of the children of Israel, and of the seed royal, and of the nobles, youths in whom was no blemish, but fair to look on, and skillful in all wisdom, and skillful in knowledge, and discerning in thought, and such as had ability to stand in the king's palace, and that he should teach them the learning of the tongue of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed for them a daily portion of the king's food, and for wine which he drank, and that they should be nourished 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were of the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And of the chief officers gave names unto them. Unto Daniel he gave the name of Belshazzar, and unto Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the king's food, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the chief of the officers that he might not defile himself. And God granted Daniel mercy and compassion in the sight of the chief of the officers. And the chief of the officers said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your food and your drink. Why should he see your faces sad in comparison with the youths that are of your own age? So would you endanger my head with the king. Then said Daniel to the steward, whom the chief of the officers had appointed over Daniel, and Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, Try your servants, I beseech you, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat, and water to drink. Then let our countenances be looked upon before you, and the countenance of the youths that eat at the king's food, and as you see us, deal with your servants. So he hearkened unto them in this matter, and tried them 10 days. And at the end of the 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer, and they were fatter in flesh than all of the youths that did eat of the king's food. So the steward took away their food, and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse. Now as for these 4 youths, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom, and Daniel he had understanding in all visions and dreams. And at the end of the days which the king had appointed for bringing them in, the chief of the officers brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar, and the king spoke with them. And among them all was found none like Daniel and Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king. And in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters that were in all his realm. And Daniel continued even unto the 1st year of King Cyrus. All right, let's go back up to verse 1. We're going to begin this book of Daniel today. Daniel, he is this one who judges, the judge of the mighty one, and Daniel is going to pick up in a period of time where they were taken captive, and this is where it would be falling back just a little bit to that reign of Jehoiakim. This would be Eliakim, this one whom king of Egypt had come up and carried away Jehoahaz, that one God had seized, and set up Eliakim his brother in his place, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. He would be the king of Judah at this period of time, and we're going to find out through the book of Daniel. It's going to cover quite a large period of time, and the book was probably written, and it's compiled actually of some writings across this period of time, and we will even find entry from Nebuchadnezzar here in the book of Daniel. But we'll go ahead and pick it up here in verse 1. And it's in the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, to Jerusalem, and he besieged it. And this would be the 3rd year of that reign of Jehoiakim, and Jehoiakim is this one whom God had set up. God had set up and raised up, and that king of Judah, that he was the king of praisings. And it was in the 3rd year of his reign, or that 3rd year of his period. See, that would be to complete the greater understandings, would be Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, would come up and besiege Jerusalem. And that's that place of peaceful teachings. Nebuchadnezzar, he is the king of Babylon, and that is that the prophet that protects the crown. He would be the king of confusion. 2. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, which part of the vessels of the house of God, and he carried them into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God, and the vessels he brought into the treasure house of his God. And we'll remember that God did in judgment, because Jehoiakim did that which was evil before God. He didn't turn to God. He didn't return to the law of God. And God did give them over into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, with part of the vessels of the house of God. Because remember, he's going to return and take the rest of it later. And he carries it off into the land of Shinar, this portion of the vessels, those things that contain everything that was in them, all the devoted things, these hallowed things that was set aside by God, to the land of Shinar. And the land of Shinar means a place of 2 rivers, a place where the rivers divide. It's where the rivers divide, this place where they split, and the river becomes 2, and that's that place of 2 rivers. And we're going to find a river is a representation of waters that come down, and that's understanding. And these 2 that we can witness, see even these understandings that come down. And we'll find he takes these vessels and he sets them in the house of his God, in the house of his not a God. And he brings the vessels into the treasury of his not a God. 3. And the king spoke unto Ashpenaz, his chief officer, that he should bring in certain of the children of Israel, and the seed royal, and of the nobles. And the king, that's Nebuchadnezzar, he speaks to his chief officer, this one who would officiate over all his doings, Ashpenaz, and that is to make known the anointed. See, this chief officer, the chief understanding is to make known this anointed one, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and these would be of the seed royal, these would be of the king's seed, and those of the nobles, and these of their chief officers and fathers' houses, for use, in whom no blemish, but fair to look on, and skillful in all wisdom, skillful in knowledge, and discerning in thought, and such as have ability to stand in the king's palace, and that should teach them the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. And these would be the ones who would have no blemish. They're fair to look upon. They're not flawed, and we should say, but fair to look on, and they are skillful in all wisdom. They have knowledge and understanding. He's picking of them the best, those even that are to look upon, and those of knowledge and discerning in thought. They have the ability to stand in the king's palace. Those who are of that nobility, that type of nobility in bringing up, that they might teach them the learning of the tongue of the Chaldeans, to learn to speak the language of the Chaldeans, and that's the clod breakers, these wise ones even. 5. And the king appointed for them a daily portion of the king's food, and of the wine which he drank, that they should be nourished 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. And this was the purpose of it, that they were going to become the king's wise men. They're going to become his ones that stand before him. And he appoints them a daily portion of the king's food, and of the wine which he drinks. This would be the meat and stuff from his table, and they should nourish themselves for 3 years. And it's going to be to complete the greater understandings, that at the end of it they might stand before the king. 6. Now among these were of the children of Judah Daniel, Kenaniah, Mishael, and Azariah. And among these, whom were taken of the children of Israel, these were among the children of Judah, and that's those of praisings, was Daniel. He would be the judge of the mighty one. Kenaniah, and Kenaniah, we remember Kenaniah is the mercy, the pity, the favor of God. Mishael is one, even those whosoever is of the mighty one. And this is whosoever is of the mighty one. And Azariah, these are those supported of God. 7. And the chief of the officers gave names unto them. Unto Daniel he gave the name of Belshazzar, and to Kenaniah of Shadrach, and to Mishael he of Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego. And the chief officer, he's going to be the one who's in charge. He gives them names unto them, and he's going to change their names from that of the Hebrew tongue to that of the Chaldean or the Babylonian tongue. And he would give their name, Daniel, the judge of the mighty one, he would change his name to Belshazzar, and that's this Lord of the correct treasure. It means Bel is this Lord, and it's of this correct treasure. But this correct treasure is to be, or that which is stored up, or that which is right, that which is proper. He's going to be this one who rules over the true treasure. Shadrach would be Kenaniah, and Kenaniah is the mercy or that pity of God, and they change his name to Shadrach, and Shadrach means this great scribe, this exalted scribe, this one who's going to transcribe it, write it down, make it known, reckon it, record it, redo it. And to Mishael of Meshach, and Mishael, these are those whosoever is of the mighty one. These ones of the mighty one would be Meshach, and that those are the king's guests. Those of the mighty one would be, and the mighty one being the king, would be the king's guest. Azariah, those that are supported of God, would be Abednego, and that's the servant of the prophet. Abednego is the servant of the prophets, we should say. 8. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the king's food, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the chief officers that he might not defile himself. Daniel, he doesn't want to eat of the king's table. He has purposed in his understanding, that's his heart, that he's not going to defile himself with the king's food, because they do offer it, and they bless it, and they do whatever they do to their not gods, and they do profane it. And this wine is that which is going to ferment, and even that which does make drunken. He's asked the chief officer now that he shouldn't partake of this and defile himself. 9. And God granted Daniel mercy and compassion in the sight of the chief of officers. And we'll find out that God grants Daniel mercy. God grants this judge of the mighty one this mercy, this compassion even, in the sight of those. 10. And the chief of the officers said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your food and your drink. For why should he see your faces sad in comparison with the youths that are of your own age? So would you endanger my head with the king. And the chief officer, he's in fear of the king, and that would be Nebuchadnezzar, the prophet that protects the crown. He is the king, and he is the one that had appointed this food and this drink to those that he had brought out to serve him. And the chief officer is scared that if he doesn't give it to them, that they would not do as good in comparison with those of their own age. 11. Then said Daniel to the steward, whom the chief of the officers had appointed over Daniel, Kenaniah, Mishael, and Azariah, try your servants. And this would be Daniel's reply, and we'll find out. These would be to the chief officers that were appointed over these 4. 12. Try your servants, I beg you, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. And his reply would be, try your servants, try us. Now, 10 days, this little period of time here, this 10 days, and that's a little understanding right there, these 10, that's the law. Try us during this little period here of the law, and give us pulse to eat and water to drink. And this is going to be what it is. And this pulse here, this pulse is, the word is zaroa, and what that is these fresh vegetables, these ones that have been sown in the garden, these fresh things that are just picked, is what it would represent. And this water would represent this understanding to drink. 13. Then let our countenances be looked upon before you, and the countenance of the youths that eat of the king's food, and as you see us, deal with your servants. He said, then you can look at us and see how we're doing, and compare us to the other ones of our same age, and eat of the king's food, these ones that take of this other food, because Daniel knew it was defiled, and as you see, deal with your servants. 14. So he hearkened unto them in this matter, and tried them for this 10 days. And we'll find out he's going to listen, and he's going to give them a try in this period, even this lesser period, that's in days, that period of light we might add, of the law. 15. And at the end of 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer, and they were fatter in flesh than all the youths that did eat of the king's food. And these that ate of the king's table, this would be Nebuchadnezzar, that prophet that protects the crown. At the end of this period, of these 10 days, even the law and these enlightened understandings, even these smaller understandings, their countenances appeared fairer, and they were fatter in flesh. They were healthier. They appeared to be more well off in the flesh, and all the youths that ate of the king's food, that all the youths that took of these young ones that partook of the king's substance. 16. So the steward took away their food and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse. And so the steward, he sees there is a difference, and he takes away this meat, this food that was defiled, that they had set before their not a god, and this wine, that which would make drunk, and he gives them their pulse. And this, once again, are these fresh picked vegetables, these that are freshly taken from where they were planted. 17. Now, as for these 4 youths, God gave them knowledge and skill and learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Now, of these 4 youths, and 4, anytime we see 4, we know it's God working. God there. 4 is the work of God in these youths, and this is going to be in its youth even, this work of God that he's going to do. We're going to find out. God gives them knowledge and skill and learning and wisdom, and God grants them understanding even. Daniel, this would be the judge of the mighty one. He had understanding in the visions and dreams, these things that could be perceived, and these understandings even that are like dreams. They are like a dream. 18. And at the end of the days, which the king had appointed for bringing them in, the chief of the officers brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. And at the end of these days, that's those 3 years, that complete that greater understanding, that period that the king had appointed. See, those days, them little understandings, which the king had appointed. Bring them in. They brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar, and they would bring them in before the prophet that protects the crown. And the king spoke with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, and Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king. And when they brought all these ones in that was gathered from all the children, there was none of them found that was among them who was like this judge of the mighty one, this pitied of God, those whosoever is of the mighty one, these supported of God. And they stood before the king. 20. And in all the matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters that were in all his realm. And in any question, any problem the king had in all these matters of wisdom and understanding, the king would ask them, and he found out they were 10 times. And 10 times we're going to find out. That's the law, see, in these greater periods. They are better than all the magicians, these enchanters, that are in all the realm, and we're going to find out because the law is going to be that which is greater than all their understandings. 21. And Daniel continued even to the first year of the King Cyrus. And Daniel will continue to the first year of King Cyrus. Daniel's that judge of the Mighty One. He's going to continue now. We'll find out to the beginning of the greater understandings of this King Cyrus, and we just learned about him in the last end of Chronicles there, last chapter of Chronicles. He would be the Molech, this one who would possess the furnace, would be the possessor of the furnace. We're going to pick it up in chapter 2, continued there. Turn and return.